分野でいうと、ゲームに始まって、今後、電子書籍とか、音楽とか、そういう今までのコンテンツビジネスを大きく拡大するプラットフォームになると思います。
In regard to the contents business, of course, we had our beginnings in the online game business. However, we are expanding the kinds of contents that we want to be able to offer. For example, e-books, also in music as well. In other words, we want to create a larger and larger platform.
一方で、マーケティング分野だと、先ほどお話した公式アカウントとか、スポンサースタッフのように、マーケティングの世界も今大きく動かしています。
And as I explained earlier, the other area that we're focusing on is, I said earlier, advertising, but I might refer to it as the marketing aspect, marketing field. We have these official accounts, and we have these sponsor staffs. So we're constantly thinking of other new services to be able to offer.
今後は e コマースとかニュースの分野にも進めたいと思っています。
In fact, we want to expand into e-commerce fields, also the news fields as well.
で、売上は今まで公開してなかったんですが、今日ちょっとお話したいと思います。
In the past, we've never announced our revenues or our sales, but today I would like to talk a little bit about some figures.
ファーストクォーターの LINE 事業の売上が58.2億円、前四半期比 92% アップです。
In regard to LINE's first quarter sales, we were able to reach 5.82 billion yen. And that's 92% growth in comparison to the previous quarter. First quarter sales for LINE were 5.82 billion yen, and that is a 92% increase.
ゲームが 50% です。
And the breakdown of the sales is 50% from our gaming related businesses.
で、スティッカーが 30%。
And our stamps or stickers, 30%.
あとそれがコンシールバンドとかスポンサーのスタンプが含まれています。
That includes our sponsored stamps, etc.
あとは日本が売上の約 80% ですね。
And I would also further like to break down this figure by saying that of our total sales, about 80% of our sales came from Japan.
今日初めて数字を発表しました。
So this is the first time we announced
そうですね、おっしゃる通りなんですが、今まだそれほど売り上げを上げようと思っていなくてですね、まだユーザーベースを拡大しようと思っています。
Everything that you said is quite accurate. Our fundamental focus at present is not so much to try to increase our revenues or our sales. Our fundamental focus right now is to try to expand the number of users as quickly and as much as possible.
でもちろん日本のユーザーが多くお金を使うということもありますが、価格が今一緒なんですよね、グローバルで。なので当然アジアでいうとちょっと高いというイメージがあります。
As you pointed out, yes, Japanese users do tend to use more money. Another point that needs to be considered is that prices, however, are the same throughout the world, which means that for other Asian countries, since the prices are the same all over the world, for other Asian countries, many people may feel that the prices are rather high, a little bit high.
収益を考えるとそのあたりも検討する必要があるんですが、今とにかくユーザーベースを拡大しようと思っているので、売上に関しては、ビジネスモデルのある意味テストというか、そういったことで、いろんなビジネスモデルやっているということですね。
So that leaves room for further thought in the future. We might have to, in other words, rethink our prices for different markets. However, as I mentioned earlier, our fundamental focus right now is to try to increase users and not worry so much about revenues. I think maybe what I can say is that we're in the process of experimenting at present to see what kind of business models work in different areas.
Okay, anything else?
まず僕たちのサービスはプロモーションするだけで伸びるというものではないんですよね。
First of all, I'd like to begin by saying that in regard to our services, it's not simply enough for us to be able to promote, advertise our services and immediately be able to get users.
LINEっていうのはダウンロードしても前に使っている人がいないと価値が出ないサービスなので。
In other words, LINE is a wonderful service, but even if you download it, if there are not people around you, people that you're familiar with or that are your friends, who also have not downloaded it and who are using it, there's no people don't use our services. In other words, the value of our services does not become fair unless you have many users using it.
世界中の今数字を リアルタイムで見てまして、である程度その数字が伸びた地域のみプロモーションを積極的にやるようにしています。
So what we're doing is that we're looking, tracking very carefully, monitoring very carefully the growth rate of the number of users in different areas. We watch this in real time, and when we see the beginnings of the numbers of users growing in a particular area, that's when we start our promotional efforts.
まあ今日各国で宣伝していただけるとして嬉しいなと思って。
I actually have a request. It would be very wonderful if each of you could advertise or promote our services in each of your individual countries.
で会社が分かれたのは、まあ、LINE が日本から生まれて、まあ、LINE の本社は日本だという定義をしたということですね。
The reason that we separated our companies was that, after all, LINE was a service that was developed in the Japanese market for Japan. It was a company that was basically born in Japan, and by being able to separate it from the main parent company, we were able to get this idea across more clearly.
今後、まあ、IPO に関しても、まあ、可能性はあるかなと思っています。
In regard to your question about the possibility of an IPO in the future, certainly the possibility, I think, exists.
こうするための秘訣、ポイントですね。何だったのか、一言でも結構ですし、何かエピソードでも結構ですが、LINE が成功した本当の一番ディープなシークレットですね。そうぜひともですね、伝授いただければと思います。My question is, what's the deepest secret to succeed in the content business on the internet? Thank you.
まあ個人的な意見になるんですけど、今のインターネットユーザーっていうのは提供側の気持ちをものすごく敏感に感じ取るところがあるんですよね。
This is a personal opinion. However, when I look at internet users today, my feeling is that they're very, very sensitive toward the thinking of people who provide services and companies that provide services and information.
何かこうユーザーをコントロールしようとか、お金を儲けようと思うと、それがそのまま表に出るところがあります。
In other words, the users can sense when a company is trying to control the users or their activities or behavior in some way. They can sense when the company is trying to get them to pay for something.
なので、まあ、そうするとユーザーが離れちゃうんですよね。
In other words, they can tell if the company is trying to profit from them. And when they get these feelings, the user tends to step away from that company.
なので、まあ、儲けようと思わないことが結果的に儲かるいうことかなと思うんですけど。
So the secret is somehow to make profits without thinking or aiming to make profits.
よろしいでしょうか。
Is this an adequate enough answer?
そうですね。アジアの企業がグローバル化するときにやっぱり一番難しいのがダイバーシティをどうやって受け入れるかということかなと思います。
When an Asian company tries to become global, I think the biggest challenge facing this company is how to be able to reflect and take in diversity.
そういう意味だと、まあ、僕たちはある意味その韓国の企業であるので、まあ、外資系企業なんですよね。なので外国人がたくさんすでにいます、社内には。
In that sense, I believe that we're a little ahead of other, for example, Japanese companies or many other Asian companies in that we already, from our very beginnings, were very diverse. In other words, we were working with people outside of our own country. We're actually a foreign-owned company, and we have many non-Japanese foreign persons working within our company.
多分韓国の会社も日本の会社も社長が言うことは絶対っていうのが一般的な文化だと思うんですが。
When we look at South Korean companies or Japanese companies, I think in general we can say that what the president says, the president of a company says, is law.
まあ僕たちの会社では社長の言うこと聞かない人が大勢います。
I can tell you in our companies, what the president says is basically ignored.
まあリーダーシップのやり方は、まあ本当にこう誰が偉いとか偉くないじゃなくて正しいことを言う人が一番リーダーシップを取れるような文化になっています。
In other words, the culture that we see in our company is that leadership comes not from just simply having a title or a position, but people who say the right things, the correct things. Those are the people who become leaders.
なので海外展開も、まあ、実はそのままその組織が海外に移ってやっていくんですよね。
So we already have a very diverse sort of global, open kind of culture, and as we expand our activities abroad, I think we're just simply expanding that culture abroad.
でそこに現地の人も加わっていくと。
In other words, it is an open, very receptive company, so that local people can very easily enter our organization.
もともと組織がグローバル化されてたので、かえってやりやすいところはあります。
So what I'm basically saying is that I think our organization, to begin with, was already very global in nature. Therefore, it's very easy for us to take the next logical step and make ourselves physically more global.
外資系企業の難しさもあります。
Having said this, however, I understand how difficult it is to have a foreign company be your owner. I certainly sympathize with the companies who have faced this situation.
Is there no content side of this organization?
もちろんそれは進めてますね。はい。
Yes, we are of course working to localize our contents to have more local contents as well.
僕たちが本社でやるところは、LINE というコミュニケーションの、軸となるところと、あとはプラットフォームを作るところですね。
What we do in our headquarters at LINE is to basically provide what we call the axis, the fundamental foundation, which is line communication. We're basically offering the platform.
プラットフォームに乗るコンテンツは、各地域で作るという考えです。
In regard to the contents that will be placed on the platforms in each different location, these will be created or taken in on a local basis.
Okay,
まず台湾で、伸びた理由は、正直わからないんですが。
In regard to your first question, why we have so many users in Taiwan, I don't know.
世界で伸びた理由というのは、正直わからないところなんですけど、運が良かったということかな。
To be very honest, we don't know why we're getting so many users worldwide. We're probably just very lucky.
あと一つメイドインジャパンというものが受けられる地域っていうのはあるのかなというふうには考えています。
It might be also that we're very popular in areas where this concept of made in Japan is very well received.
私たちは作るときに非常に質にこだわってまして、細かいデザインとか UI とか、そういうところが響いたのかなと思っています。
I think when we talk about this made in Japan concept, we're also very, very careful when we create our products or our services. We really focus on quality. We work on design to the very, very smallest details. For example, in regard to our UI.
で、フォーキャストは実はなくてですね、実は私は事業計画を作らない会社でして。
In regard to your question about forecasts, we don't have any forecasts. In fact, we're a company that doesn't even have business plans.
なぜならば、先のことはわからないという、目の前のことをしっかりことが大事だという。
The reason for this is that no one can predict the future. No one knows what will happen in the future. All we can do is focus on what is happening right in front of us.
もちろん財務の人は作ってますが、僕も細かく見てます。
Of course, we do have a finance department that probably puts together such figures and forecasts, and I never look at those figures.
それはちょっとオープンにはしてないですね。
So we don't reveal the breakdown in regard to Q1 figures, how much comes from Taiwan.
Okay.
そうですね。南米はスペイン語圏は結構伸びてるんですが、ブラジルの場合はまだそんなに伸びてないということで、ただ市場としては大きいので、チャレンジをしたいなと思っています。
In regard to Latin America or South America, basically we're very popular among countries that speak Spanish or use Spanish. Brazil has not yet been a big growth area for us. However, we do realize it is a huge market, and we're very. ブラジルはスペイン語じゃなくてポルトガル語がございますが、but this is Brazil is a very important market going forward, and we would like to try to challenge it.
ぜひ宣伝してください。
So please advertise and promote our services in your country.
で、男女比なんですが、性別は登録しないようになってるんですよね。
In regard to gender breakdown of our users, when you register, you don't register your gender.
僕たちが取ってるのは電話番号だけ。
The only thing we ask for basically is your phone number.
一般的に女性から広がる傾向がありますね、若い女性から。
But we do see some trends, and we see that our services expands basically through women users, female users, especially young women users.
でそうすると男性も使い始める。
And when women users use it a lot, then men users begin to use it as well.
そうですね。 まずは、人間の表現したいパターンというものを定義をして、それに合うものをまずベースとして作ってますね。
Well, first of all, we try to analyze what kind of emotions people in general like to try to express. We define them, and then we use those fundamental emotions as our foundation.
ただ非常に細かい話になると、例えば謝る時でもドラえもんで謝りたい人と、アンパンマンで謝りたい人とか、どんどん細かくなってくるんですよね。
However, when you get into details, it becomes very, very much an individual choice. For example, if one wants to use a visual character to
1.2 billion people in China. Is there any other legal constraints or ethical constraints or political?
そうですね。中国はやはりテンセントが非常に強いということもあって、苦戦はしていますが、ただユーザーは伸びていますね。
China, there is a company called Tencent, which is very, very strong. However, we're struggling in that market. However, we are seeing our number of users increase.
今週北京に行ってきたんですけど、IT の分野の方はかなり注目してますね。
Actually, I visited Beijing this week, and I noticed that in regard to our services, people who are very familiar with IT experts, etc., are very much focusing and highly evaluating our services.
なのでチャンスはあるかなと思います。
So I feel hopeful that I think we have a good chance to grow in that market.
彼らが言うには今はまだスマートフォンがハイスペックなマシンだけなんですよね。が中心なんですよ。
When I speak with these experts in China, however, they say that at present the only smartphones that are basically being sold in large quantities in China tend to be basically high-spec smartphones.
今年からロースペックのスマートフォンが大量に出るだろうということで、今年以降チャンスかなと思います。
However, this year there are going to be many, many different phones that are more low spec that are going to be released in China. So I think we can be poised for a future potential very high growth starting this year.
Okay, just quick, yeah, please.
家族の写真を送ったりとか、あと孫とおじいちゃんおばあちゃんも文字なしにスタンプだけで会話をしているそうですね。
We see, for example, photographs being exchanged among family members. We also see there's a great deal of communication that occurs between grandchildren and grandparents that have absolutely no text, no words involved. They just send each other these stamps.
で既読という見たかどうかを確認する機能、そういう機能があるので、おじいちゃんおばあちゃんが毎日見てると、家族も安心する。
We also have a function where if you send a message or a visual character or something, there's a function that indicates whether the person has opened the mail or seen the character. And so even though you don't actually speak with the family members, you can at least, families can be assured that the grandparents are still healthy and alive because they've actually seen it.
そこまではないんですけどね。
Perhaps a future might include being able to check whether their grandparents have taken their medication. We don't have those functions yet.
Okay, yeah, go ahead too. Real quick.
大変ですか団体と考えるわけなんですけど、当然日本はやっぱ賃金が世界から高いですよね。なのでよりクリエイティブな仕事をしないと生き残れないんじゃないかなと思ってます。
Our company, as I mentioned earlier, does have many foreign, non-Japanese employees. As a result, we're constantly thinking within our company what exactly it means to be a Japanese company, what it means to be Japanese, and what are the positive aspects, negative aspects, etc. One reality that we face is that wages in Japan are high in comparison to other nations. As a result, in order for a company to be able to survive in the future in Japan, a Japanese company must be very, very creative.
今までは日本には職人と呼ばれる人がいて、なかなか真似のできない技術があったと思うんですけど、IT の世界はそういったものはコピーもできるし、プログラミングもできるということで、やはり頭を使ってクリエイティブな仕事をする方向が、今後日本人が成長する一つの方向じゃないかなと思ってます。
When we look at the history of Japan, we see that we had Japanese manufacturing. There were people who we referred to as basically craftsmen who had tremendous some manufacturing-related skills. People had said that it was very, very difficult to imitate those skills. In the world of IT, however, it's a slightly different world. You can copy and imitate fairly easily. Therefore, for a company to be able to survive in the future, as I said earlier, you must be more and more creative.
ちょうど安倍首相も LINE ユーザーでして、そういう意味で IT 分野をより強化していくというところではすごく共感いただいて嬉しいなと思います。
Prime Minister Abe himself apparently is a LINE user, and as a result, I think he is very, very serious about trying to be able to strengthen Japan's skills and strengths in that area. That's something that I'm very happy about.
Okay, yes, please go.
From TV Asahi, as you know, it has recently been decided that the internet can be used in future political elections. As a result, we've heard that even with regard to your company, there are different political parties setting up accounts, etc. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts in this regard, what possible effect it might have on your business, etc.?
僕たちはメディアではないので、政治の分野に関しては平等であるべきだというふうに思っています。
First of all, we are not an actual media, and as a result, we fundamentally believe that in regard to politics, we should be as neutral and fair as possible.
もともと公式アカウントっていうのは月300万円ぐらいかかってまして、そうするとお金がある政党とない政党で差が出てしまうのかなと思ってました。
In regard to the official accounts, it costs about 3 million yen per month to hold an official account. However, we thought that given this setup, this mechanism or system, it would mean that political parties that had lots of money would be able to use these official accounts, and political parties that didn't have money would not.
なので政党向けには無料に開放したというところがあります。
So we decided to make our accounts free to political parties, all political parties.
で、LINE は若い層に非常に影響力があるので、ある意味投票率が高くなればすごく意味があるかなというふうに感じています。
As you may have surmised, many of the LINE users tend to be young people. As a result, if this new world can be one in which more and more young people vote, that would be a wonderful thing. Congratulations to the growth of LINE. I think one of the reasons that your service became very popular was the popularity of these little stamps, these characters, and particularly the four main characters that belong to LINE. One is Brown, which is a bear, one is a rabbit, one is a moon, and one is James, who seems to be a person. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose these four characters to be your main characters? And my second question is, and this is said in a very hopeful way, is it possible that you yourself will be represented by a character in the future?
そうです。初期のキャラクターがなぜそうなったのか僕は知らないです。アートの世界です。ビジネスじゃなくて。で僕のスタンプは多分ニーズがないんじゃないかなと思うので、ニーズがあれば検討はすると思うんですが、それよりももっと可愛いキャラクターが求められていると思ってます。
In regard to the original character.
ユーザー情報取ってないのでわからないんですね。
I'm sorry, we don't ask for user information, so we don't really know.
ただ広がる形っていうのは結局コミュニケーションが好きな人から広がるんですよね。
But when we talk about the number of users expanding, we look at the way communication tends to grow, and basically communication tends to grow centered around people who like to talk, who like to communicate.
おしゃべりが好きな人から使うというふうに思っていただければ。
So maybe that will give you some idea. You can kind of figure out what kind of people like to talk or like to communicate, and that's the core basis of our use.
実際若い方は1日に1000通以上やったりしてますね。
We look at young people, we see that they have maybe 1,000 communications per day.
なので朝起きると大変らしいですけど。
So it's hard for them to get up in the mornings. There's so much work waiting for them.
Yes, please go.
そうですね。まずそのスタンプに関してはもちろんそのユーザーの問い合わせ窓口からもいっぱい来るんですけど、もう街を歩いたりしてるともういろんな人から要望が来てですね、もう日本中そこら中から来てる状況ですね、直接。
In regard to the stickers or the different emotions that we receive requests from, we do have these sites, these windows where users can send in requests and send in suggestions, advice, etc. But basically, if I'm walking down the street of any city in the world, people stop me and say, "Can you do this emotion? Can you do this emotion?" So we have many, many.
あと一方で、社員が多分一番使っているので、使う中で自分たちが必要だなと思うものも具現化しているという状況ですね。社員ですね。
And also, we have employees themselves who very much have this sensitivity toward being able to express emotions. So a lot of these emotions come from the employees themselves.
で、その言うことを聞かない社員をどうするかということなんですけど、結果的に正しいものを選ぶということが大事かなと思ってます。
In regard to my management style, how to deal with employees that don't listen to what I say, I think what's most important is to be able to make the right choices, to be able to choose correctly.
韓国とか中国の方とはもう喧嘩みたいな議論をするわけですけど、最終的に正しいものを選ぶことが経営にとって重要かなと思っています。
Quite often, I fight quite bitterly with my South Korean employees or counterparts or Chinese employees, but still, if the final conclusion is that we make the right choice, that I think is most important, and that I guess leads to a correct management style.
多分最初から決まってる会議みたいなものって意味がないと思うので、とにかく議論して決めるというやり方をとっています。
I guess I could summarize my management style by saying I think it's pointless to hold meetings where the conclusion is basically a foregone conclusion. It's best to have a meeting where everybody can really throw out their ideas and have real vigorous and meaningful debates. So that I guess is my management style.
で、収益の話なんですけど、収益は考えないって言える会社は少ないんですよね。はい。
In regard to profits, I think there are very, very few companies in the world that can say we really don't think about profits, we don't have to think about profits.
そここそが多分競争力だと思います。
In fact, I think if you are a company that can say that, that presents a tremendous competitive advantage.
ほとんどの会社っていうのは3ヶ月ごとに成長を作っていかなきゃいけない。
Most companies are forced to be able to show some kind of growth figures every 3 months.
で僕たちは、唯一 KPI としているのはユーザーの数ですね。
The only thing that we follow are only KPI, the figures that we monitor and track are growth figures in number of users.
多分こういうことができるからこそ成長し続けてるんだと思います。
And so it goes back to what I was saying. It's because we only have to worry about growth figures in terms of numbers of users and not about monies that we're able to show this kind of growth.
多分それだけで成功できるわけでもないですよね。
Having said this, however, that's not the only reason for success.
ほとんどの事業っていうのは多分失敗するんだと思うんです。
I fundamentally think that most businesses are going to fail.
なのでソニーでなぜ出なかったのかっていうのは多分今は運がいいってことですね。
Why this kind of activity could not have been done by Sony? I think it goes back really to we were lucky.
よろしいでしょう
I don't know. Is that an adequate enough answer?
Okay.
か。あります。
We don't have any specific plans to hold an IPO, but the possibility is there.
先ほど話したように先のことは考えないので。
As I mentioned earlier, we're not a company that thinks too much of the future.
今大事なことはいいサービスを作り続けること。
What's more important is to focus on the present and to be able to provide better services now.
About protecting user information. I heard this strange thing from somebody who does use LINE, saying that if you click on a box and agree to some sort of LINE agreement, that all their information, the private information, gets downloaded. Is that true? And if
ですね、それはちょっと誤解がありまして、まず一つ個人情報に関しては電話番号とあとは電話帳ですね。電話帳、誰が電話帳に登録したとか、誰がというか電話番号ですね。電話帳に登録した電話番号を取得します。で、それは確認を取ってやってるんですけど、それを設定しないやり方もありますし、後で変更することもできます。で、おそらく一般的なインターネット企業と比べると 取ってる情報は少ないのかなというふうに思っていますし、またそのデータは暗号化されて、それを扱うプロセスも国際的な認証を取っているので、おそらく僕が言うとあれなんですけど、その世界でナンバーワンぐらいのその品質、情報管理品質を保っています。
I think there might be a misunderstanding. What we ask and get in regard to private information is basically one's phone number, your phone number, the user's phone number. Also, we access the address book that is in the smartphone, but only again the phone number information. And there are steps that we take along the way to confirm each step that has been agreed upon. And there is also a way that you can set up the process so that we don't have that kind of access, and you can also decide to accept sending this information, but you can also change that setting later if you want. I think in general what I can say is that compared to other internet-related companies, the kind of information that we take is very, very small. And also when we take this information, we encode it, and we also deal with this information in a process that has received international certification. I think what I can say in summary is that probably in the internet world, we are the #1 company in terms of protecting private information.
多分今ビッグデータの時代と騒がれてますが、僕たちほどデータマイニングしている会社ないんじゃないかなと思うぐらい、データには一切手を触れてないです。
I know that nowadays we're talking about the era of big data. However, in spite of this, we are very, very we do almost no data mining in comparison to other internet companies.
Okay, Martin?